Hello everybody, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to play Cynthia's Garchomp. I ended up taking it to locals this last weekend. I ended up going 4-0. Today we're going to discuss some of the matchups, the list that I use, some of the things I changed about that list, and some of the main ways to play the deck and sort of navigate the early game, the mid game, what to look for when playing it, and what sort of strategies are successful. I do have some slides prepared for you, so let's get right into it. Alright, so we do got the slides here for you. As you can see, how to play Cynthia's Garchomp. These are sort of the main cards you're going to be seeing in the deck. You can't play the deck without them. The Garchomp, of course, the Roselia, and the Spiritomb. This deck is built largely around just the entire Cynthia's engine, which we'll go over in a second. But yeah, all of these cards sort of just work perfectly together. There's not really many needs for any extra Pokemon. Some decks need to like have a draw engine or a way to have different attackers and like a sort of like a box type deck where you have to have different kind of energies. This is just straight up, you're sending out Garchomp and you're swinging with them. The strategy is really basic, really straightforward. This deck's pretty easy, I would say, and that's sort of an objective thing. Saying something's easy in Pokemon, but this deck does have quite a simple strategy once you start to break it down. Sort of the basics of playing. This deck does not really struggle either way what it goes. Going second is preferable sometimes because you being able to play a supporter, you'll be able to get that set up more efficiently. But this deck can go first. If you do open a decent amount of ways to get Pokemon going first actually can be quite helpful to you because this is a stage 2 deck. And we're not really trying to rare candy in this deck. We're not being hyper aggressive. It's kind of a slower setup strategy. But this deck has advantages going first and second. A big thing that's sort of just a general concept, disrupting your opponent's hand after Iono has left is kind of very different now. Iono used to be sort of a very big trump card, and if you knew how to play into Iono and play Iono correctly, it was a big advantage. But Iono being gone sort of levels the playing field and the skill ceiling because Judge is good, but it is not nearly as effective as Iono was. So knowing how to abuse Judge can be to your detriment and to your advantage because Judge brings a different set of statistics. Iono, you would eliminate any cards they had in their hand from them being able to draw, as whereas Judge just gives them a random set of 4 among what's in their deck and in their hand. In this deck specifically, you can get more aggressive with Judge because you're using the Garchomp attack to draw until you have 6 cards in hand. So Judge is honestly not that big of a factor for you, so getting judged and using Judge actually can be helpful to you. Manipulating your hand for Corkscrew Drive, as it says at point number 3. Corkscrew Drive is the attack, the single energy attack for Garchomp. It lets you choose to draw until you have 6 cards in hand. So you can manipulate that in a ton of ways. Just play your full hand down, get to 0, or you judge and play a couple extra cards. And now you've messed with your opponent's hand and you're going to refill up to 6. Corkscrew Drive is the main reason this deck is strong, is because there is a draw engine built into doing damage. And when to use Spiritomb. Spiritomb is the dark type Pokemon that was showed on the previous slide. It has the attack, I forget what the attack's name is, but it does damage for every damage counter on your benched Cynthia's Pokemon. And the main reason that's strong is because the Cynthia's power weight gives any Cynthia's Pokemon plus 70 HP. So that means the Garchomps are 400 HP, which makes it nearly impossible to one-shot them. So the main strategy is to rotate them in and out of the active, so they're just taking a lot of chunk damage while you're attacking. And then you can come in at the end with Spiritomb and do, 400 damage. If both of your Garchomps take 200, you can do 400 damage with Spiritomb for 1 energy. It takes a single colorless, and it does 10 for every damage counter. So essentially all the damage you take and build up, you can just send right back on a single prizer. So Spiritomb in the late game, incredibly strong, especially into certain decks like Dragapult that are just trying to build damage on you to take big swings. You can then come in with your Spiritomb and pretty much trump that. Here's the list that I played. I think the list that I played was actually quite bad. It wasn't even the list I was testing with online. It was just what I cobbled together. I actually showed up to locals at 12:58, and we start at 1 o'clock for play. So I had to cobble it together, and fortunately I was able to win with it. But it's just simply the main core: 4 of the Gibble, 4 of the Gabite. Gabite is the best card in your deck. Gabite, once per turn, you can use its ability to search your deck for a Cynthia's Pokemon. So once you get one Gabite down, it starts to roll down the hill. You can go Gabite, get another one, then get your, you have 3 Gibbles, get 3 Gabites on board, then that Gabite can go search a Roserade. And then next turn you can do it again, so you can get your Roselias and Roserades back online. You can get Garchomps on in your hand, and you can just keep it rolling down the hill, like I said. Right now, I played a very thin line, a 2-2 of the Roselia Roserade. The next slide we'll talk about things that we changed with the list. I think that's a big one. The 2-2 felt a little thin, so I'd probably switch that up. The Stadium, Force of Vitality, just a last second inclusion. I would not play that. It didn't come up once. And Lucian. Lucian is a disruption card that is similar to Iono, where you both shuffle your hands and go to the bottom. And then you each flip a coin, and whoever flips heads draws 6 cards, and whoever flips tails draws 3. So if you both flip heads, you both draw 6. If you both flip tails, you both draw 3. Or if, vice versa, like they flip heads, they draw 6. I flip tails, I draw 3. I was playing it because sometimes you could know your opponent's hand knowledge depending on what they do in their turn. So it's better to just put it at the bottom and negate whatever they have in their hand. But the downside is that drawing 6 cards, they fill up to 7 after a draw for turn. It's likely that they're going to have some sort of combo to continue to advance the board state anyway. So I would definitely flip that. That's another card that is going to be on the next slide. And I'm playing a 1-up Pokegear. Like I said, it was just to fill a spot. This deck ran incredibly off of just not having the cards in it that I wanted. I don't even have any of the fighting special energy, which would be another card that I would heavily want to include. But it felt amazing. It was incredibly consistent. Just one Poffin and one Pokepad in the opening hand, and you pretty much, you get there, because you just get Gibbles down, and you Pokepad for Gabite the next turn, and you can play really well under item lock, especially. Just having a Gabite under item lock pretty much advances you all the way that you need to get there. So this deck felt incredibly strong. Very, very straightforward. Like I said, playing well into item lock is always important. And there's tons of things I would change about the deck too. Things that I would mainly change: stadium options. I'm thinking of moving on to Team Rocket's Watchtower. It negates the abilities of colorless Pokemon. There's a lot of Meowth showing up in format, so that would be something that I would definitely move towards. Slotting in a second Spiritomb, because Spiritomb just felt like such an amazing attacker, and if you don't have to go retrieve it from the discard pile to attack with it twice, it would probably be very, very good, because you have on board a way to search it all the time. Obviously, like I said, switching Lucian into that third Judge. Judge feels really good in this deck, being aggressive with it, being able to draw back to 6 cards, it not really hurting you to judge yourself. And then just including more of the Roserade Roselia line, probably go up to a 3-3. I've seen a lot of people going to 4-4. I think 3-3 would probably be where it's comfortable for me. And then also, it's not on this slide, but I would like to possibly include some of that fighting special energy. It's an energy from the most recent set, Perfect Order. When you attach it, all effects of attacks done to that Pokemon does not affect them, sorry. So like things like Dragapult, you attach it to your bench Gibble, they cannot do damage counters to it, and such things like that. And like sort of like retreat locking as well, you can get around. There's quite a few effects that you can negate with this, and it just provides a fighting energy. And there's ways to search it, so you could include things like Hilda if you wanted to make it more important in the deck. But I've seen quite a few people playing it at a 4 of, just for that, that sort of checkmate against things like Dragapult. And that is going to be our last slide. Next, we're going to move into talking about the matchups that I played into and how that felt, and the kind of decks that you're going to be seeing in this meta, as it is now a post-rotation meta, so everything's going to be different. Let's get right into it. All right, now we're going to talk about the matchups that I played into. This is going to be sort of an uneventful discussion, because two of the matches I played were very intense. But two of them were against single prize decks that did have bad matchups into me, so I was able to sort of just win those pretty handily, which is obviously something that's going to happen. Sometimes you're going to hit bad matchups, sometimes you're going to hit good ones, and that is just the case. But round one, so this is going to be a common theme, but I do lose the die roll. I lost the die roll all 4 games, which was kind of funny. It seemed to be my good luck charm, I guess. I roll up, obviously playing Garchomp. My opponent chooses first. They set a Dunsparce in their active. They play no cards from their hand, and they pass. I had Gibble in the active, and I had Petrol in hand. I was going to use Petrol to search a Buddy Buddy Poffin, but at that point, I could attach an energy to my active, search for Premium Power Pro, which increases my fighting Pokemon's attack plus 30. And since the Dunsparce is weak to fighting, I was able to, its Rock Hurl then does 20 base, so 50 times 2 would do 100. The Dunsparce has 70 HP. I was able to win via Donk, which isn't the best time or best feeling a way to win, but it certainly is a way to win. It will happen to you, it'll happen for you. It just unfortunately is that way sometimes. I feel confident in the Alakazam matchup. He was playing Alakazam. He revealed to me after, because there's a couple decks that play the Dunsparce engine, but that's one of the main ones. I feel confident in the Alakazam. It's a single prizer that you can use to draw cards off of, and they need a lot of cards in hand to hit 400 damage, so you can then trade into them with a single prizer with Spiritomb, and you move around your Garchomps using the power weight. So I think it's definitely a good matchup for Garchomp, being able to just smack it, take a prize, draw, fill up your hand. And then being able to aggressively judge them and force them down to low cards. So I think it would have been, a matchup where I could win anyway, but fortunately I was able to win on the first turn. And then in the second round, I lost the die roll, and my opponent chose second. I was playing into Dragapult Blaziken. In that matchup, I was able to get set up pretty fast. I just turn 1, I had Buddy Poffin, I set down my guys, and then I was item locked, but I was able to use Lily's Determination to draw into a Gabite, and then on that turn I was able to kill it with the Gabite attack, Dragon Slice. And then he unfortunately was only able to get Dreepies. He did not have Rare Candy on his second turn, so he went into an item lock for a second turn, which allowed me to then get my Garchomps down because he wasn't able to kill my Gabite in the active. And then I was able to knock out his Badoo and draw a significant amount of cards. And by that point, I was fully set up on my board with 2 Roserades and my full engine active, because I was able to start very fortunately and very fast, and he just simply didn't have Rare Candy. And that's sort of the thing. Dragapult's a very good matchup for Garchomp because they do go slow, but they need to get aggressive against you specifically, because if you just set up a Garchomp, they can't ever kill it because they're not playing what's his name, Dusknoir anymore, so the 400 damage is like unobtainable, and Spiritomb then becomes sort of a checkmate trump card. So Dragapult is one of our better matchups, and simply him whiffing Rare Candy was good. And then the board state did advance. He was able to get a Dragapult in play, put Blaziken down, but we sort of just traded punches into each other until I was able to take a knockout on, I think it was a Fezandipity to take my final 2 prize cards. I used just the attack to knock it out for weakness. Then third game, I was again lost the die roll. My opponent chose first once again. They flip over a Team Rocket's Murkrow, and I did not know what this deck did entirely. I knew it was something with the Team Rocket supporters, I just wasn't sure. Unfortunately, they mulliganed, so I got to draw an additional card, and then in their mulligan hand did not have Proton or a Transceiver, so they just had Murkrow. Did not search a Pokemon, they attached Team Rocket's energy to it, and they passed. I did not donk them this time, and I just set up my board slowly, and then when I got Garchomp in play, I just started slowly taking one prize after one prize, because they had a ton of supporters in hand, but it was never enough to do the full gusto of a one-shot knockout, and if you just poke into a Garchomp, it's very bad. Eventually there was a turn, I think I had 3 prize cards remaining, where my opponent did dropped the full supporters to KO a Garchomp in one hit. But then I obviously had 2 more on the bench set up, so I was able to just push it up and keep attacking single prizers. I eventually had to use Prime Catcher to try and kill the Porygon because that card would be able to kill me in the late game. But it was sort of just a slow, I only take one at a time, but I was trying to take minimal actions against my opponent because I kind of felt bad because that deck specifically can really not do anything when Garchomp is across the table. I sort of have to whiff, and I did not. So I just slowly took my single prizes, built up my hand, and just won the game by trickling down to the single prizes. Last round, I lose the die roll, and my opponent chose second. Again, I believe. Was it second? I can't remember if my opponent chose second or first. The early rounds for this were very slow for me. It took me quite a while to get a Gabite or a Gabite in play. I think it took me 2 turns to get a Gabite in play, but my opponent was also not doing much of anything because I was under item lock and he wasn't playing many cards. But once I started to get rolling, I was playing in Zoroark, I should mention. Once we started to get rolling, we both sort of hit stride on the same turn. I set up a Garchomp and I swung into a single prizer. I believe at that turn I bossed up a Reshiram just to negate an attack on the following turn because he only had Darmanitan and he couldn't kill me or do a significant amount of damage if he only had Darmanitan on the field. But then he was able to resurrect or find a Zekrom and then punch into me for a strong hit. And then in that matchup, mainly I was switching my Garchomps. I was able to, at one point, do 360 damage with a Spiritomb to his Zoroark. And that was sort of a rough time for him because at that point he only had one Zoro on the board. So the next turn he had to attack me with Darmanitan after he ends PP up to it and used the backdraft attack because I had very low HP and I had some energy in the discard pile. So he was able to take a 2-prize knockout on my Garchomp with Darmanitan, and that was a little tricky. I had to navigate around that. And then it eventually became a board state where I had to use 2 energy to discard to knock out a Zoroark. And I had no energy on board, and then he hit me with a unfair stamp that bricked me for several turns, where he started taking small prizes, where if I didn't draw the Fighting Gong for the turn that I did, I would have lost. But yeah, what happened, I'm drawing dead for a couple turns, and he's just slowly attacking me with Darmanitan backdraft and setting up his board on the back. And I only had 1 prize card remaining, so I sent up Garchomp. I had, I think, 2 Premium Power Pros in hand, and that was it. And I top decked Fighting Gong, and luckily there was a Fighting Energy in deck I had attached to the Garchomp, and I only had 1 Roserade, and Darmanitan has 140, so I did actually need the Power Pros, but then I was able to take the final single prize knockout, and I did win then the tournament, which it was kind of an uneventful 4 games, but the deck ran like butter. You know, my opponents didn't have great games all 4 games. The best game being the Dragon Ball game. So it didn't feel amazing. Like I said, it was kind of an uneventful, but I can't, make my opponents have better running decks. My deck ran really well. And I don't know if that's because of the list. Like I said, I think the list wasn't amazing, but the deck felt really good. So, I'm just happy to have had the result, not the way it happened, but have had the result that I did. I didn't end up pulling anything from the packs. I think I ripped like a SIR Dedenne, which was like $4 that I sold him. But yeah, it was all around fun event. I played against a lot of my friends that day, so it was really nice. That's mainly the big thing about Garchomp, is that it's going to run consistently. Alright, that'll bring us to the end of the video then. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know any other decks down in the comments that you want me to try out. I'd be down to try any sort of deck. I just love playing the game, love talking about it. So that would be amazing. Like I said, just let me know. I hope you guys learned a couple things about Cynthia's Garchomp. when to use certain attacks, when to draw off of the Corkscrew Drive, when to use Spiritomb, the consistency of it, just a high value deck. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I hope to see you again soon.